This podcast is sponsored by Hercules Strong Guard Tires. Visit HerculesTiresCommercial.com to learn more.
Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. This is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, 866-90-RED-EYE. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. RedEyeRadioshow.com is where we stream our show live or download our app and listen when you want. All right, you ready for this?
Okay.
We have been asking, where has Adam Schiff been lately? Adam Schiff, who lied consistently over the 4 years of the Trump administration, saying he had the absolute proof of criminal activity of Donald Trump colluding with the Russians, and who was lying all the time about that, consistently, day in and day out for 4 years, made his appearance on The View. Morgan Atagas from the Trump administration. She was filling in as the conservative, and here's a little bit of their back and forth. The highlight comes right at the end, though.
All right.
Right at the very end. Yeah. Here we go.
So I want to ask you about something that's in the news a lot right now. You've been really prolific over the past few years being the head of the Intel Committee, and you defended, promoted, you even read into the congressional record the Steele dossier. And we know last week the main source of the dossier was indicted by the FBI for lying about most of the key claims in that dossier. Do you have any reflections on your role in promoting this to the American people?
Well, first of all, whoever lied to the FBI or lied to Christopher Steele should be prosecuted, and they are. And unlike in the Trump administration, if they're convicted, they should go to jail, not be pardoned. So Donald Trump pardoned Roger Stone for lying. He pardoned Michael Flynn for lying. If people lied to the FBI, they should go to jail. But at the beginning of the Russian investigation, I said that any allegations should be investigated. We couldn't have known, for example, people were lying to Christopher Steele. So it was proper to investigate them. And let's not forget what we learned in that investigation. We learned that the Trump campaign chairman, Paul Manafort, was giving internal polling data, campaign polling data, to Russian intelligence while Russian intelligence was helping the Trump campaign.
And to be clear, he was fired halfway through the campaign.
Well, he may have been fired, but the effort to get Russian help continued, and even beyond the effort to get Russian help.
But you may have helped spread Russian disinformation yourself for years by promoting this. I think that's what Republicans and what people who entrusted you as the Intel Committee chair are so confused about, your culpability in all of this.
Well, I completely disagree with your premise. It's one thing to say allegations should be investigated, and they were. It's another to say that we should have foreseen in advance that some people were lying to Christopher Steele, which is impossible, of course, to do.
No, it's not, but we'll continue. Here we go.
But let's not use that as a smokescreen to somehow shield Donald Trump's culpability for inviting Russia to help him in the election, which they did, for trying to coerce Ukraine into helping him in the next election, which he did.
And for some reason, I can't get the last part of it. And the last part is the most important part of it. Hang on, I have no idea what happened there. Hang on. You ready? Here we go.
All right.
I think I have it now. Here we go.
All right. Trying to coerce Ukraine into helping him in the next election, which he did, into inciting an insurrection, which he did.
Wait, can we get that one again? What did he say?
Inciting a what?
Let's get that again. Here we go.
Okay. Helping him in the next election, which he did, into inciting an insurrection.
What was that?
A what?
Was that insurrection? Let's continue here.
Insurrection, which he did. None of that is undercut. None of that serious misconduct is in any way diminished by the fact that people lied to Christopher Steele.
No, I think just your credibility is.
Whoa!
Oh!
Oh! As you saw, he was attempting to deflect at every single moment, and not talk about what he had done. Who wrote the article that he's still lying? Was that Jim Garrity in National Review?
Yeah. Let me go back. I think it was Garrity. And let's see here.
No, David Harzani.
Okay, all right.
David Harzani wrote the column, and he said today another person on The View, guest host Morgan Ortegas, confronted Schiff about revelations that the Steele dossier had been a partisan deception meant to undermine the Republican candidate. Schiff took no responsibility for his role in spreading its contents, for destroying public trust in the electoral system, for perpetuating a conspiracy theory, or for feeding a pliant media distortions and fabrications. It's one thing to say allegations should be investigated. Schiff responded. He continued. He said, it's another to say that we should have foreseen in advance that some people were lying to Christopher Steele, which would have been impossible. Then he went on, and then the entire thing, he goes, none of the serious misconduct is in any way diminished by the fact that people lied to Christopher Steele. And she said, no, I think just your credibility is. Why couldn't Schiff have foreseen the consequences of treating Christopher Steele's work as legitimate? Yeah. He knew that the dossier was an opposition research document paid for by the Clinton campaign and the DNC. Schiff tried to suppress information that undercut collusion accusations, claiming, for instance, that Devin Nunes's memo detailing the dossier's origins and lack of evidence were unsupported by the facts and the investigative record. He knew that was a lie when he said that.
Yeah.
And when after years of delay, Schiff was forced to release transcripts of interviews conducted by the House Intelligence Committee into Russia meddling, we learned that the Director of National Intelligence, former Obama Attorney General, former Deputy Attorney General, and the FBI Deputy Director, among others, all told his committee that there was no direct evidence of criminal conspiracy. Schiff knew, and yet he continued to profess the central assertion of the dossier that the Trump campaign had colluded with the Russian government during the 2016 campaign. He didn't say it was only possible, but a fact. He did so on numerous occasions with great certitude. Every time he did, it was a lie.
Yep. And he continues again there. He's not going to answer. He's going to point to other things and not answer the question that was before him. And you know, it's very clear he has no interest in the truth or telling the truth to the American people. And he heads the House Intel Committee.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not just that he's a member of the House. It is that he heads that committee and lied extensively about it and has never recanted and won't.
Well, and what we've accused him of doing is lying to the American public about the intelligence that actually existed. Once the intelligence was given to him, he lied to it a number of times, including his response to Devin Nunes's original memo. And then, as was pointed out by David Harzani there, when it came to the discussions that he was involved in, where everybody was in that meeting and also or in that hearing and said, nope, no direct evidence at all of any type of collusion. He continued to spread it. And then you remember when he was on The View and he said that, the evidence was wide open, and the evidence was what? What was the evidence of collusion?
The meeting at the Trump Tower.
Right. Which wasn't.
With Veselnitskaya.
Right. Which was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yep. And again, he's caught lying. What I'm happy about is that at least it was pointed out. You know, you've seen a lot of coverage of the what's going on with John Durham and the indictments. You haven't seen it, I think, on a mainstream level, and that's where it would, you know, daytime television, like The View, is mainstream. And I'm guessing a lot of the audience doesn't know the full details because they haven't been following along as closely. But it's imperative that you point out that this man lied extensively. He was part of building and maintaining this false narrative, this hoax for years. and still has not told the truth about it.
As this again, who wrote this? Was this another David? Yes, another David Harzani. Durham is steadily exposing the real Russia collusion, and as he writes here, at the time, Nunes was also battered for failing to abide by proper congressional decorum and for sharing his information with the White House before filling in the Democrats. Nunes, granted, should have acted in a less partisan manner. Then again, the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, a relentless presence on cable television during this time, not only knew that Nunes was right, but lied when claiming Russians had hacked the election, and lied again when claiming to be in possession of real-world evidence of a criminal conspiracy. There would never be a credible investigation. In fact, Schiff didn't even try to impeach the president for the criminal conspiracy that he said was related to Russia.
Right. That's the biggest tell right there, that he's lying, that he has nothing. They had nothing all along.
Schiff lied, and what was the reward? Schiff is now the head of the House Intelligence Committee.
Yep.
Somebody who has lied, because we're going to get to Jake Sullivan in just a moment, the president's national security advisor, who finally, because of the Sussman indictment, all of a sudden his name, could his job be in trouble? Because he apparently knew, according to Durham, he knew the entire scheme that the Democrats that the campaign had come up with.
Yep.
And we asked this question a month ago when the Sussman indictment came, and there was nothing on it. We said, is anybody asking questions on this? And all of a sudden yesterday it appears as a story all over the place.
Yeah, right.
We're like, well, if at least it appeared, though, I'm happy about that.
Well, that's at least they're getting around to it. Yeah.
But Schiff lied consistently to the American people. He lied about the intelligence that he knew that existed. He was the Democrat head of the House Intelligence Committee at that time, the ranking member, and he lied consistently to the American people about what the intelligence actually said. And now, because Democrats have the House, he is the head of the House Intelligence Committee, the guy who consistently lied. You know, there may not be the criminal indictments that people would like to see, but there has to be there has to be at least political consequences here. Andrew McCarthy brought that up yesterday. He said, hey, look, don't expect that they're going to sit there and charge all these people with a bunch of different things, because I don't see that coming.
We talked about that yesterday.
Yeah, they'll put out the story for you. It may be reprehensible, but you're allowed to lie to the American public. You're allowed to have a conspiracy of lying. Legally. You're allowed to have legally the ability to have a conspiracy to lie to the American public. You can set up somebody with a lie, and there can be other people involved in the lie. In politics, it may be reprehensible, but you may not be able to prosecute it because you can't find the evidence for what you wish to prosecute. Or the fact is, it simply may be a political, horrible, dirty trick, but there is no place to go on it criminally.
Right.
And he says he doesn't believe there's going to be serious indictments, for whatever it would be. One thing I was thinking of yesterday, though, is with all this money going to the law firm to lie to the FBI, can you use that as totally improper use of campaign funds? That just popped into my mind the other day, and due to the fact and due to the fact that Durham already said that Obama isn't a target, Biden isn't a target, Brennan isn't a target. The only places where you could go high up, and he claims it's not there. He claims that Durham probably believes that they all wanted to believe that Trump was guilty and pushed forward and did things that were completely improper and might have deserved them getting fired. But none of it was, again, mass incompetence because of political purposes may be reprehensible, but it's not chargeable with any crime.
Right.
Is the point that he was trying to bring up.
Right.
But there has to be political consequences. There is no way that Adam Schiff should be the head of the House Intelligence Committee after he lied for 4 years to the American public. He lied. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't that. Oh, I was fooled by by the lies that other people were telling. He knew.
Yep.
And it's documented that he knew.
Yep. And the only thing he can do when he's confronted about it is change the topic,
change the subject. Right. I just hope there's. I wonder if he'll go into harder interviews because he went to The View figuring he wasn't going to get a tough question.
Right. He certainly didn't expect that.
So now where is it? To CNN and MSNBC every night? Because he doesn't want to take a question? He lied to the American public.
Yeah.
Somebody who lies that consistently for 4 years about what he knows the American intelligence has, and he continues to lie about Trump over and over again, has no business being the head of the House when it comes to intelligence.
Right. That committee is designed... Those are the representatives of the people so they can get access to what's going on with intel and then report it honestly as to what went on in a situation. And he lied for 4 years about this hoax and still won't back down.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in a truck's air system. That's why it's crucial to keep your air system moisture-free as the temperatures begin to drop. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures put it to the test. In addition to changing your air dryer desiccant cartridge and draining your air tanks, make sure that no alterations have been made to the air compressor discharge line. This can dramatically increase the amount of moisture in the air system. Lastly, have a professional technician check the condition of your air dryer heater, purge valve, and check valve. Visit TA Truck Service facilities for more maintenance and service tips to prepare your truck for winter.
This maintenance tip is brought to you by TA Truck Service. More bays, more expertise, more solutions.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90-RED-EYE. Well, everybody had the story yesterday after Fox had it. I'm reading this from the New York Post, but President Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, is referred to in one of the indictments obtained by special counsel John Durham in his investigation into the origins of the Russia probe of former President Donald Trump. Fox News reported Tuesday. The revelation, echoed in a September piece by Post columnist Paul Sperry, immediately raised questions about Sullivan's future in the White House. Sullivan is unnamed, but Fox cited two well-placed sources who identified him as the foreign policy advisor referenced in the charges against former Democratic National Committee lawyer Michael Sussman. We'll get to the specifics and very quickly, within 30 seconds to a minute, explain it to you coming up following the bottom of the hour if you don't know about it. But this is not new news. I mean, Sullivan's name came up as a foreign policy advisor. I don't know if it was the Paul Sperry in Real Clear Politics or the Post that we saw, but I know that when it came out within a day, because he had listed that the members, the campaign manager, the foreign policy advisor, and the communications director of the Hillary campaign in the Sussman indictment knew of the entire scheme. Well, you can look it up. You can just say who were the major campaign leaders of the Hillary Clinton 2016 campaign, and in a number of websites, his name came up as foreign policy advisor.
Right. Yeah, and so now the question is, how does he stay in that position, given his role in all this?
We asked the question because a month ago we're saying, nobody's bringing this up. This is the national security advisor, and Durham's alleging that they were all in the loop,
right,
knowing the conspiracy to set up the lie about Trump and Alpha Bank. Wow.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, boom, well,
here it is.
Better late than never.
Right.
or rent your home? Sure you do, and I'll bet it can be hard work. You know what's easy? Bundling policies with Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's or renter's insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing, too, because you already have so much to do around your home. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com.
Cyber Ninjas. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 86690 Red Eye. Well, a little over a month ago when John Durham indicted Michael Sussman for lying to the FBI, the premise of it was that, as he lined out, that the Hillary campaign paid money to a law firm. The law firm, one of its lawyers, then went to a researcher who was trying to find a job in the Hillary campaign. And they got researchers apparently from Georgia Tech. I don't know how exactly it went, that they thought they might have something on Trump, that a server was communicating that Trump apparently owned, that was communicating with Alpha Bank, a bank that is very closely tied to Vladimir Putin. Well, that wasn't the case. It was a server that was sending out basically junk mail that had apparently something that relating to Trump in it, but had nothing to do with Donald Trump. They knew that. They knew they had major problems with it. He took that lie and went to the FBI and told him, put together a white paper, a report. Here's what we think Trump is doing, knowing that it wasn't true. Sold it to the FBI. When the FBI started the investigation, they went to the media. The media wrote a story, and then to circle back again, the campaign, in a story that they created and financed, a lie, used the the website verification story on it to attack Trump. In it, Durham says that the foreign policy advisor, the campaign manager, and I think the communications manager were in the loop. They knew that this was going on. Well, very quickly after that, it was, the foreign policy advisor was identified. I can't remember who identified it at that point. And then we checked. We went, all right, let's go to Wikipedia. Let's go to, and I don't know if it was Wikipedia, but we checked a bunch of different sources who was a foreign policy advisor who fit that. And it was Jake Sullivan. Mm-hmm. And other publications came out and said, that's Jake Sullivan. And so I don't know if a weekend went by or whatever, and I can't remember. Did we go on vacation then, or did it happen after vacation? I'm not really sure of the timeline, but I remember all of a sudden you and I on the air one day, and we talked about it. We said, how come nobody's talking about this? Why is nobody talking about the fact that they named the position that Jake Sullivan, who is now the national security advisor to President Biden, if this was Trump, he'd be gone already. He would have been fired already. Yeah. And it seems as if nobody is asking the question. Well, now there it appears. Yesterday, President Biden's national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, is referred to in one of the indictments obtained by special counsel John Durham in his investigation of the origins of the Russia probe of former President Donald Trump. Fox News reported Tuesday the revelation, which echoed a September piece by Post columnist Paul Sperry, immediately raised questions about Sullivan's future in the White House. Sullivan is unnamed, but Fox cited two well-placed sources who identified him as the foreign policy advisor referenced in the charges against former Democratic National Committee lawyer Michael Sussman. The development marks the closest that Durham has come to anyone directly associated with the Biden administration. Sussman's indictment details how an unnamed Clinton campaign lawyer exchanged emails with the Clinton campaign's campaign manager, communications director, and foreign policy advisor concerning the Russia bank allegations that Sussman had recently shared with an unnamed reporter. There is no indication that Sullivan is a target of Durham's probe into the origins of the FBI investigation of the suspected ties between Russia and Trump's 2016 campaign, Fox News said, in addition to citing sources who identified Sullivan as the unnamed Clinton foreign policy advisor. Sperry's Post column further suggested he may have committed perjury during a closed-door congressional testimony in December of 2017. Representative Devin Nunes, a ranking member of the Intelligence Committee, which took Sullivan's testimony, said it seems like a lot of the key Russia hoaxers fell upward and got promotions in the Biden administration. If Jake Sullivan was involved in the hoax, he should come clean and give a full, honest accounting of his role, but I won't hold my breath for that. Now, what happens, and we had asked this question back then, and we brought it up again yesterday and the day before, I believe, as we were talking about what came out of the Danchenko indictments. We said, well, Durham is painting the story, and part of the story that he's telling is a story that the Hillary campaign and the leadership of the Hillary campaign, and we mentioned over the last couple of days again, Jake Sullivan's name, who was national security advisor to Biden, his position, which was him, was named as knowing all about this. Yep, of knowing about this scheme that was set up. And as we said yesterday again, we don't know what any possible charge would be or whether he's a target, but clearly Durham wanted to make him as part of the story and the leadership of the Clinton campaign as part of the story that this thing was being either controlled or monitored from the top. Well, if the money was given from the campaign, of course, you can say wherever the money flows from is who controls it. So you can make that case that, well, if the money came from them, well, then they controlled it. Well, did he specifically do the money himself, or was he just a part of knowing that this all went on? And if he just knew that went on, is there any criminal charge against him? Or was there a long process over months of communicating with all of these other actors involved in this? And as we said, we don't know, but clearly Durham wanted us to know. Durham wanted us to know that Jake Sullivan was involved.
Yeah.
And he is now part of a very high part, one of the highest positions you can have in the White House besides president, as director of
National Security Advisor.
National Security Advisor. Thank you so much. I was thinking Director of National Intelligence. National Security Advisor.
Yeah.
He's people would reference his brother because they know the Condoleezza Rice of the Biden administration.
Yep.
Before she became Secretary of State, of course.
Right. And this is I think if nothing else happens, if no other indictments come down from Durham's investigation, the story is being told. And now it negates any purpose for the Department of Justice, the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, if he wants to sit on the report, because the report that Durham will finally issue at some point is owed only to the Attorney General. The Attorney General can sit on it if he wants, but the story's already been told in the indictments because the indictments are public.
Now, during yesterday's White House press briefing, the Deputy Press Secretary was asked if there's any conflict that would preclude Sullivan from being able to carry out his duties. She responded she was unaware of the report, so didn't even know about this. That's a complete lie.
That's a lie.
They all know about it inside the White House. They knew about it a month ago, right after the Sussman indictment. So there was another lie coming from the White House. They knew about it.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know anything about this. I don't even know what you're talking about. Give me a break. They're completely aware. And okay, great. You don't know it now. Let me fill you in. You want to play stupid, liars? Then here's what happened. Here's a copy of it for you in case you don't know. And tomorrow I'm going to be asking the same question. I won't be surprised to see Jake Sullivan step down. I wouldn't be surprised to see him step down after this. You and I have been asking, where are the questions for Jake Sullivan, which you would ask Jen Psaki.
Well, after his horrible performance after the Afghanistan debacle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just think that ultimately they're going to want to cut ties because this isn't going away. I wouldn't be surprised to see him step down.
I hate to take the opposite point of view with Iggy.
Yeah.
Izzy, excuse me. I'm getting Iggy with
Izzy Mandelbaum.
with Izzy Mandelbaum
yeah.
there.
Well, maybe he does. Maybe he doubles down. Right?
I wouldn't believe double down. Hey, we can ride out anything. There is no scandal. There's nobody that needs to leave this administration because we're pure no matter what anybody else says.
Well,
everything is somebody else's fault to this administration.
And if it's widely believed or if they know that Sullivan would not be the target of Durham in terms of anything actionable, that it's only about the narrative, you just wait for the narrative to blow over, which it's not going to do. Politically, this isn't going away. It's only going to get bigger. And I think especially if we ultimately do see the Durham report through Merrick Garland's office, which I suspect we will now, why would you want to hold on to it?
Well, and it'd be tough because Durham has told the story.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Right. So he has told the story. So I do believe that you will see the report made public, and I also believe then after the report is made public, you will see that he will testify before both the House and the Senate.
Yeah.
Durham, that is.
Yeah, Durham will. Durham. And, by the time we get around to that, well, the Republicans might be controlling the committees that he would be sitting in front of.
And as we said yesterday, because we talked about this yesterday, where it's going, because a caller said, well, they're probably going to get away with it. I said, well, they could.
They might. They might.
Who knows? The number one thing we want is the truth of what actually happened. The story being told is extremely important. If there's not criminal repercussions, if it's been too long, if there's statute of limitation problems, if there's it was a horrible, dirty political trick, the greatest scandal we've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, you can lie to the American public. You can conspire and lie to the American public, and that's not against the law.
Right.
You can lie to the press. You can lie, as long as you're not under oath, you can lie to anybody, and you can set up a completely false narrative. You can be Adam Schiff, and you can lie to the American public about the intelligence that you see. You can lie to them about everybody.
And you're not breaking the law.
You're not breaking the law. But what we believe is there must be some type of political consequence. As you said, for Hillary with the server, she didn't become president.
Right.
That was a political consequence for her.
And I think that and the Republican 800-page report on Benghazi, I think, had some influence. But she, no reasonable prosecutor would go after her, but the American voter decided she shouldn't be president.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara, 866-90 Red Eye. In economic news, not good yesterday. Wholesale prices rose 8.6% from a year ago in October, their highest annual pace in records going back nearly 11 years, the Labor Department said. The government's Producer Price Index, which serves as a gauge of final demand prices from goods producers, rose 0.6% for the month.
Inflation is good. You people don't understand inflation. You people don't understand supply chains.
Somebody said that again yesterday.
Did they?
That inflation was good.
Yeah. No, it's a positive that we have inflation. Mm-hmm. Keep preaching that. Please keep saying that out loud. Please keep telling
was
people.
It somebody on MSNBC or something? I just. Yeah. When you said that, I went, "Uh-oh, wait a minute." I just saw that again.
Probably Mika.
She's going to wear...
Inflation is good.
I'm going to wear a mask for the rest of my life.
Yeah. I'm not even sure why I'm not wearing one right now. We should wear one on the air all the time. Please start doing that. Yeah. Inflation is not good.
It is. MSNBC columnist says current inflation crisis is actually a good thing. There it is.
Yeah, right.
I knew I'd seen it somewhere yesterday.
Yeah, all right.
There was.
Yeah, no, it's a good thing. You people don't understand. See, but don't try and get into the economics of things. You're just a normal person.
Just believe us. Drastically rising prices is good.
Yes. Look, don't pay attention to the money in your bank.
I'm not going to explain to you why.
No.
Just believe
me.
You
wouldn't understand if I did.
Right, you're stupid.
You're too stupid.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Pilot Flying J Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the entire planet Earth, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app, put it on your phone, and listen when you want. Hey, I just remembered, it just popped into my head right now as we came back on the air here. That was a new liberal circular firing squad. That's a new liberal international climate change circular firing squad. You're telling me there's now environmental groups that are starting to protest over the whole concept of net zero in carbon? For example, net zero would be, we pollute, but we plant trees.
Yeah. In fact, they were at, of course, the COP conference. And in one story here, AFP news agency interviews a man by the name of Tom Goldtooth. He's the executive director of the North American Indigenous Environmental Network, and he denounces net zero pledges as greenwashing. and the group that he is with is holding up signs that say net zero is not zero. What they're saying is that it is an attempt to greenwash it, throw money at the problem, create another industry at the same time from these industrialized governments of the entire world. I mean, he brings up the EU and the U.S., of course, and says, no, they're just turning it into another industry, net zero. That's what that would do. And you have all these corporations that are coming out and going, no, we pledge net zero. we definitely pledge net zero. And they're, because they're getting together and the board is looking at it going, we're going to get to net zero. I'll tell you, we'll get to net zero, and the profits will be much higher than net zero. I mean, because that's the whole idea is, well, no, we're going to pledge to do that. Well, they're going to pledge to their shareholders that they are going to make money. Well, and so now you have this new circular firing squad, and you have to include Greta because she was doing the whole blah 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 blah, but you're not really doing anything. And what this group here, again, the North American Indigenous Environmental Network, what they're saying is you're not doing anything. You're this is not real change that you're bringing about.
Well, and it's beautiful coming from the left, and it's a wonderful. I mean, I think this is one of the top-notch liberal circular firing squads because this is a top-notch climate change circular firing squad. What they're saying is, and I find this beautiful, very simply, corporations and governments have got together to ensure that corporations can still pollute, but they pay the government more, and so all the elites get more money, but nothing is ever accomplished when it comes to actually reducing the amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere.
Right.
Like Greta said, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's sort of here again, and we talked about this earlier, the abstract on an issue that Democrats love versus a reality, and we're seeing that. I mean, there's John Kerry. I think Biden yesterday was saying we're going to be net zero on cars, which simply means car companies are taxed more and people pay more for vehicles, and the money goes to the government, and they plant some trees, and they pretend this is what the far left is saying, and then they pretend that they're doing something on climate change when they're really not. It's the same thing as Kerry out there stating yesterday. Coal will be gone by 2035 or by 2030, and we will use no fossil fuels for energy in 2035. That's a load of horse manure.
It's garbage.
It's garbage. But the same time that they're throwing out those abs, and that's what the whole net zero is. Oh, okay, we found a way to appease everybody and raise money for the government too. And then finally you get somebody on the environmentalists saying, all you guys are doing, you know what the conservatives say is true. You know you're not going to solve anything here. You're just trying to raise money.
Yeah, right.
You're just trying to raise tax dollars. And finally this indigenous environmental group is saying, this is all a con.
Right.
This is all a con to keep the elites in power, to keep the corporations producing their products and polluting, and the government just gets the elite in government. They just get rich. There's just more money to spend on what they want to do, but they're actually not solving the problem. Actually, in a way, in a bizarro way, a lot of the exact same things that conservatives.
No, I was watching the video report from AFP News Agency, and I was like, I agree with Mr. Goldtooth. Not for the same reasons. He says that, fossil fuels need to stay in the ground. Well, that's not going to happen. And we need to cut the emissions at the source. Stop with this carbon neutral thing. Stop with net zero, because net zero is not zero, according to them, and that you're just creating throwing money at it. And it's just going to be a greater flow of money between industry and governments, which is exactly what they want. I would add to it that approach also is going to disproportionately affect the poor and middle class, because we'll be paying more for everything. It is because here's what ultimately the plan would be: a lot like a VAT tax, and politically, they haven't been able to get the value-added tax, which is a compounding tax, all throughout the supply chain of any given item. You start with a tax on raw materials, then the finished materials, and all of this. It's a compounding tax that would be completely hidden, and like corporate taxes. People raise their fist. No. Corporations need to pay more. Well, they don't pay taxes, you do. And a VAT tax would be the same thing, which is why politically, so far, they haven't been able to get a VAT tax done here in the States. Well, this would be a massive taxation. This is a fundraiser is what this is for the governments. We can just go and tax the daylights out of them. We don't care. And they've proven they don't believe the science. John Kerry. Well, someone like me can't be expected to be on a commercial flight with a bunch of ketchup eaters. I have to be on a private jet. And
these environmental groups are saying, no, jets should be gone.
Right.
There's no, well, don't worry, we're taking the jets but planting trees. And we in our ketchup making, we are using battery power instead of, right. But the battery power, because as we have said all along, they're not going to get rid, unless you close down all industry and we go back to being cavemen and women again, Neanderthals, you're not going to be cutting what comes out of industry. You're just moving it to somewhere else. That's the big lie that they tell. And finally, on the far left, the environmentalists are calling them out, saying, well, you're not really getting rid of any of these carbon gases. You're just transferring them to something else and saying if you plant more trees or do whatever or pay a carbon credit and tax people more and raise the cost for the poor, and that's the other thing that the left's finally going to figure out, you're not really doing anything except you're making it harder for people, especially poor people, to live by taxing them more. If you're going to do the right thing, shut down the source, which means shut down industry. That's what. Now, we disagree with that concept of them, but we do agree when they get to that point that the left is being disingenuous and not telling you the truth. It's like with electric cars. And the carbon footprint they have, which is much greater of a carbon footprint than the average car when it's sitting on the lot, before it's even been sold, it has way more of a carbon footprint. And getting rid of the batteries, these are things that people that are critical thinkers think of, but the bureaucrats and the elite politicians and the pseudo-environmentalists, are all in cahoots just to raise funds for their favorite things in government and have more control of industry and have a tougher government hand on regulation, but they're not really doing anything. No. And finally, the left is realizing it. So this will be an interesting liberal circular climate change firing squad.
Well, we talked about how voters prioritize certain things like climate change, and it's never at the top.
No.
Now, when you ask them directly about climate change, they'll say, yes, it's important. Then you ask them to prioritize it on issues, it's never at the top. But it really starts to really negate any reasoning of using that as a part of a campaign. I'm sure they're still going to do it. But if you're not getting the real environmentalists on board these days, because they know, well, it's like Greta said, blah, 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 blah. Your campaign promises are going to fall short. You think you're coming off as saving the planet. You're not coming off as saving the planet. You're creating another industry. And it comes along with great taxation. And that's not going to, that's just not going to fly.
Yeah, I like that analogy, how you put it, because it's like someone asking me, is your golf game important? Oh, yeah, it's really important in my life. Is it important as your family? Well, no. As important as your job? Well, no. Right. As important as your financial well-being and making sure that your investments in this economy does well? Well, no. As important as taking your prescriptions? No. And then we keep going down the list. Yeah. And golf's important to my life, but we look at it, and of the 30 things, it's number 30.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Same thing with climate change, because I saw it the other day, people are concerned with climate change. Look at this group. I forgot what it was. 60% of people say yes. Oh, no, what was it? No, it was the one that said people are actually worried that they lose sleep. Now, that was a lie.
Yeah.
That was a lie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they lose sleep or they're really depressed or worried about it.
Over climate change. Yeah. That's not happening. Except for the people in Earth First who are crying at the trees. Yeah.
And the raw words that, by the way, how to cure your climate anxiety. I just found that. Oh, no, here it is. 70% of Americans experiencing climate change anxiety and depression, survey finds.
That's a load of garbage.
I know.
That's a load of garbage.
A new survey from Yale shows 70% of Americans are now very or somewhat worried about global warming, as more of them show signs of anxiety or depression as a result of that worry.
Those surveyed were all Yale professors.
Oh, wait a minute. Noah Odenberg is a psychologist working in Oakland. He says, you may have heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. A psychiatrist came up with pre-PTSD because it's not trauma that's already recurred. It's a fear of future trauma. So this is a new idea. So this is basically climate change anxiety is pre-PTSD.
Okay. Wow.
You know, my excessive drinking on the weekends, it's justified.
Sure. You should be doing more.
Climate change.
Anxiety.
It's anxiety. I only drink because of the anxiety.
Right.
Of my pre-PTSD.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute.
What?
Hold it. I didn't check. Is that covered under medical marijuana?
Well, you have to look that up.
Pre-PTSD.
I mean, we don't have it in our state, but Oklahoma's just a few miles away.
That's true. I have pre-PTSD.
Why is Gary moving all of a sudden?
Can I get some pot?
Whatever happened to Gary McNamara? He took off. He moved to Altus, Oklahoma.
Yeah, what was it? He had climate change pre-PTSD, and that's
right.
The place.
All of his anxieties.
Where he could get pot for.
Well, in many of the other medical marijuana states, it was, anxiety was covered. So
yes, it was.
I haven't looked up Oklahoma at all. I've been to Oklahoma quite a bit lately, and I've seen the dispensaries. I haven't gone in because I don't have a medical need for it. I think you have to be a resident of the state. I don't know. I don't know the.
Now, he says he's seen more and more people bringing up the subject of global warming in therapy. Well, those people do need therapy then.
Yeah.
Citing feelings of sadness and depression. If you have feelings of sadness and depression because of climate change, you should be in therapy.
Yeah, you should.
So you should be.
Yeah. No, if you truly do. I don't believe 70% of Americans are suffering with it.
No, I do not.
No.
Unless it gets you free pot.
Okay.
Maybe if it gets you free pot.
Now we're talking. Now the respondents, hey, does it get you free pot? Yeah, maybe. Oh, well, yeah, I'm losing lots of sleep over it. Yeah.
86690 Red Eye.
Not quite a record corn crop, but close. That's what USDA is projecting. Tuesday's round of USDA reports raising the corn production estimate by 43 million bushels from last month, less than 1%, taking the projected crop up to 15.1 billion bushels. The record is 15.15 billion back in 2016. On the demand side, good news on the use of corn for ethanol.
We've seen some strong profitability, and that's supported some additional grind.
USDA Chief Economist Seth Meyer says the USDA's World Outlook Board has upped its forecast for use of corn for ethanol by 50 million bushels. Outlook Board Chairman Mark Jekanowski told us why.
Ethanol production margins have been strong. High oil prices are also supporting ethanol demand and supporting ethanol prices.
Gasoline prices very high. Gasoline manufacturers are looking for lower-cost additives such as ethanol. USDA now expects that of the 15 billion bushel corn crop now being harvested, 5.25 billion of it will be used for making ethanol. Gary Crawford, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
The USDA report is brought to you by Cenex Roadmaster XL Premium Highway Diesel Fuel.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley, 86690 Red Eye. The insanity continues coming up following the bottom of the hour. The California plan to inject social justice into math.
Okay.
And also the latest on inflation.
Yeah.
And the wholesale price is up 8.6% from a year ago, tied with 13 years ago, and like some of the biggest of all time.
Yeah.
And we'll just break it down where it has gone there. So
yeah.
And very quickly, that latest from that well-seasoned politician Matthew McConaughey.
and what he believes. Speaking of costs, I keep reading, and a lot of people post this. Just a reminder that it costs $0 to be kind. It also costs $0 to tell someone to go to hell. So, now I would say being mean,
stay away from Eric.
Being
today.
mean saves you more money because if you're nice, then you're expected to maybe buy a gift for someone. I'm just arguing the point.
Critical thinking, connecting the dots. That's all you're doing.
You should be nice, unless you're just not a nice person. Here's your forecast.
Several storm systems throughout the U.S. today. In the northwest, moisture onshore for Washington and Oregon will result in some higher elevation, significant snow for the Cascades and Sierras. Snow's developing in Idaho and Montana down through Colorado and portions of Utah. That'll continue to push eastward. Rain out ahead of that system for portions of eastern Montana and eastern Wyoming. Later today, that system will provide rain showers for North and South Dakota with some limited snow along the Canadian border. Rain will follow into Nebraska, into Oklahoma and northern Texas. We'll see rain continue tonight into tomorrow morning. In the northeast, there is a system that's exiting offshore, but not before bringing rain to areas of the New England states and snow for Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. The Midwest and South are dry. Your national forecast from Red Eye Radio. I'm meteorologist John Trout.
Nothing on the road gives truck drivers the peace of mind to power on like Hercules tires and their trucker-tested, rig-ready Strong Guard series, featuring premium materials and an advanced construction that extends mileage and tread life, plus 3D siping, giving you more control in slippery conditions. Strong Guard was built from the ground up to let you cover more ground. Whatever you're hauling, wherever you're hauling it, the legendary Hercules Performance Promise is your co-pilot in confidence, covering workmanship and materials, casing allowances and retreads, and a limited protection policy that lasts up to 7 years. Protect your payload without overpaying and power on with Strong Guard, only from Hercules Tires. To learn more about Hercules Tires, log on to HerculesTiresCommercial.com. That's HerculesTiresCommercial.com.
One 866-90 Red Eye. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley on Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric. I'm Gary. 866-90 Red Eye. The left is just nuts. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know how many times I can say this. The California Department of Education is receiving a barrage of criticism from parents and experts after posting a draft of potential revisions to the state's guidelines on math curriculum and courses. The Education Department posted a draft of its proposed reforms in February, expecting to have the plan approved by November. Backlash to the proposed new math guidelines has put the plan on hold, according to the New York Times. The guidelines, which would advise the state's public schools and school administrators, would discourage the concept of gifted students while injecting social justice issues such as gender theory and inequality into coursework. For example, 1 and 1 equals racism.
Yeah.
The California guidelines are not binding, but could overhaul the way many school districts approach math instruction. The draft injected the idea of naturally gifted children, recommended, again, shifting certain students into accelerated courses in middle school, and tried to promote high-level math courses that could serve as alternatives to calculus, like data science or statistics.
Huh. All right.
The draft also suggested that math should not be colorblind and that teachers could use lessons to explore social justice. For example, by looking out for gender stereotypes in word problems or applying math concepts to topics like immigration or inequality. I don't think they probably mean if 1,000 illegal immigrants attempt to cross the border and the Border Patrol sends back 900, how many have stayed in the country illegally? I'm guessing that's not what they mean.
I'm guessing you're right on that.
I'm guessing that probably isn't what they mean.
If a corporation has only 2 women on the board of directors and the other 9 members of the board are men, and they have 0 transgender members on the board, how much of a fine should they pay the state government and the federal government? It's, I just wonder, about the kids in the classrooms, what's going through their minds if they look at things like this. And kids are critical thinkers. That's why toddlers are always asking, well, why? They're developing critical thinking skills. And so they see right through it. They sit in the classroom, they're bored to tears anyway, and then you're going to start pushing agenda on them. It's just become ridiculous. It really has.
The proposed framework has received condemnations from hundreds of STEM field professionals, educators, and public officials who have signed on to an open letter released in July to California Governor Gavin Newsom. The proposed framework would, in fact, demathematize math, which it would. For all the rhetoric in this framework about equity, social justice, environmental care, and culturally appropriate ideology, there is no realistic hope for a more fair, just, equal, and well-stewarded society if our schools root long-proven, reliable, and highly effective math methods and instead try to build a mathless, brave new world on the foundation of unsound ideology, the letter says. Mm-hmm. A real champion of equity and justice would want all California children to learn actual math, as in arithmetic, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, and calculus, and not an endless river of new fads that effectively distort and displace actual math. Proponents of the new guidelines say the framework is needed to close the gap between high and low performing students. And how do you do that? You eliminate the high performing students. You take away the courses that create the high performing students. Mm-hmm. Therefore, you close the gap.
Yeah.
The gap is never, by the left, intended to raise those on the lower bar closer to those at the higher bar. It's to eliminate the higher bar, and then your statistics look better. Hey, that's math for you.
Ah, see? You just lower the standard for everybody.
Right. You lower the standard for everybody, and therefore you've solved the problem. You've dumbed down society, and that is the solution.
We start with a grade of 80 just for showing up. And then just writing something on the paper reminds me of the old SNL skit for Jeopardy. Okay, just write a number. Write any number. So you just write down a number. We'll give them 10 points for that. Look, we have all A students.
Exactly. Lower the standards.
Now, they're going to fall flat on their face when they have to go out into the real world.
I know.
We'll let the real world deal with that. Because we care about children. See, we don't want kids to learn. We want to make it look like kids are learning.
You know, this just popped into my mind. We had talked about this yesterday about the assistant opinion editor of Newsweek that has written the book on wokeness, and was on CNN the other day, and there hasn't been a lot of talk on this, and I think there's going to be more talk on this. And what she said was, look, the whole wokeness comes from the elite, rich, white liberal, and it destroys everyone, even those who they are attempting to help. She said it's not coming from blacks,
right?
This woke, everything that you see here is coming from elite white liberals. She never got into the discussion that we were talking about, and we said, why? It goes back to the whole thing of identity politics. It goes back to what we said. This goes back a while when Eric and I were like, why does the left every time on every issue do they claim that you're a racist and they never, tell you specifically why you are? We always explain if we ever call somebody a race baiter, for example, as we've done to President Biden, we're not doing it because we get great joy in it. It's because it's what he's doing.
Right.
When he lied about a Georgia election law,
right,
where you get 18 days to vote, to go in and vote, that isn't, to compare that to Jim Crow on steroids is an absolute lie.
Yeah.
Now, why do you tell that lie? You tell that lie to create racial division.
Yep.
To try to make the case that Jim Crow on worse laws than Jim Crow from 70 years ago, 80 years ago, worse laws are now existing in the state of Georgia and the state of Texas, which, of course, is completely and totally absurd, but you do it to create racial division and racial hatred, which is why we explain, but we precisely explain why he is race baiting and why he is doing what an actual hate group leader would do, and that's lie, in order to create racial hatred and racial division between people.
Yeah. It's about dividing. It's about creating another entire group, section of of that party, I guess, or group that is, of course, they have to be victims.
And so we said it's very important to explain it all the time. So when we would, people call you guys are racist for that. We'll explain how we're a racist. They could never do it. And we always thought, well, why is that the first thing out of their mouth? Why are they always saying it and they can never back it up? And then we came to realize one day, we went, wow, because that's how they think. Yeah, they have this tremendous amount of guilt. And I really do believe that many of the, when you talk about the elite white liberals out there, they actually believe those bigoted things. I believe part of it is the guilt they feel for the racism that's in their hearts. And they assume that everybody else thinks the same way as they do.
No, I think that's the case with many of them.
Yeah.
And they think that they're going to, and they think they're the heroes.
Right. Because we're going to save, society thinks this way because I think this way.
Right.
We don't think that way. The majority of society doesn't think the way. You're the bigot. You're the racist. And then we see how it, how it becomes part of their party. Mm-hmm. We've seen it with identity politics and everything, judging people by groups. And it's really incredible because in the end, they end up, and we know we're the anti-racist promoting racism. And it's so obvious to everybody, and it's so obvious to all the parents. And then the liberal media the last week, since the win in Virginia, we don't know what you're talking about. What's going on? We're simply saying, what's wrong? We're not racist. We're simply saying all white people think this way and all black people should think this way. Why are you people saying that we're racist in any way? We don't understand where you're coming from. As if they act like they're idiots, like they're stupid. Like we can't figure out how you're thinking. We're promoting identity politics and judging people as in a group, not as individuals, not by the content of their character. And you people are angry at us. What's wrong with you?
Right. What's wrong with judging people by the color of their skin? That's not racist. Of course it is.
All right, quickly, bad news. Wholesale prices rose 8.6% from a year ago in October, the highest annual pace in records going back nearly 11 years, the Labor Department said on Tuesday. Let me see here. Elevated demands for goods over services again led the inflation story, with the price rises for final demand goods accounting for more than 60% of the index's increase. Goods prices rose 1.2% compared to just 0.2% increase for services, while construction prices Ready for this? 6.6%. Whoa. 1/3 of the increase in goods prices came from soaring gasoline prices, with prices rising 6.7%. Beef and veal prices represented the other side of the ledger, posting a collective decline of 10.3%. The index for light motor vehicles, a key driver of inflation this year, moved lower, as did residential electric power. On the services side, more than 80% of the increase in final demand services price increases came from autos and auto parts, which increased 8.9%. Wow. Service price, people keeping their cars longer.
Yeah. Right. That's about supply. It's also about not having the money.
And finally, Matthew McConaughey says that what Texas needs is an aggressive centrist.
Yeah.
Somebody who is not too far right, too far. This is so 90s. I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. I have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Could you please be specific? Well, I'm a centrist, which means where do you stand on this issue, that issue, this issue, that issue, that issue? The one thing that he did, though, the one issue he did come out against, though, was he's against mandating child vaccines. But other than that, it's like, oh, no, I'm a centrist. You must understand. We'd have don't get me angry by not telling me where you stand on the issues. You want to get me angry? Sit there and pretend I'm a centrist and I'm not going to explain to you what I am. And by not explaining to you the specifics of what I believe, somehow I'm of this higher plane that you should consider for political office.
This is the problem when people from Hollywood decide that they want to jump in. Far too often, what they're looking for is more adoration. This is a guy who's seen that adoration based on his work, and he believes that's going to translate into modern politics. A win. No. You have to espouse your views, and you have to show your plan for governing.
866-90-RED-EYE.
There's a new Shell Rotella engine oil for gas engines. Shell Rotella Gas Truck is available now. Megan Pino, Shell Rotella Global Brand Manager, tells us what was behind the development and more about the product.
Obviously, Shell Rotella's heritage is heavy-duty engine oil, and that will remain our heritage. And we know that our customers work hard, but they also love to play hard. And many of our customers also own a gasoline-powered pickup truck SUV, and perhaps as a personal vehicle or as part of the business. We also know that truck owners use their trucks for different purposes than a car, to be able to tow something, whether that's an RV or a boat for fun on the weekend, for your business, for hauling equipment. So you're doing something different with your truck than you are with a car. And so why use the same motor oil that you would in your car as your truck? There are 3 viscosity grades: 0W20, 5W20, and 5W30, which covers any gasoline-powered pickup truck or SUV in terms of the manufacturer recommendations.
For more, go to Rotella.com. This engine report is a service of Shell Rotella.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
All right, Eric. Worst day or better day tomorrow?
Oh, it's going to get worse. It's definitely getting worse.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.